backbone for data collection across over 450 amazing organizations. And since joining Motivity in 2016, I've been blessed to witness how our data collection platform conforms to your program rather than the other way around. So if you're curious about the system, sign up for a demo on motivity.net. I will be putting that in the chat for you. Now, often Motivity provides CEU for presentations on Behavior Live, but our future focus presentations, that's not really what we're doing here. However, we are confident your time is not going to be wasted. One more thing I want to mention, if you want for our presenter or host to address something specifically or to answer your question, just use the question button, not the chat function. The chat function is just for chatting, but you'll be able to vote for questions that you have, or just we can answer questions from there. Now, on to our feature presenter. Erica Kinnebrew is an experienced ABA entrepreneur with a passion for building successful businesses. She has exited 3 ABA companies and now supports others through private consulting and group trainings. Erica's a natural builder, always striving to optimize processes and bring teams together. She's currently building ABA Engine, a tech platform to solve major issues in the industry. And I think Erica, who wrote her own bio, was too modest, because I think she's wonderful. We could probably put a lot more adjectives in there. We were just talking, I've known Erica for a while, and she's an amazing mentor in person. So I'm really excited to see what she has to say. But now I'm going to turn it over to Brian Curley, Motivity's Chief Creative Officer, who will be your host. Take it away, Brian.
Thank you, Christy. So yeah, welcome back to Feature Focus. This is, I think it's episode 4 now, 4 or 5 that we've done. And we started this webinar series to kind of shed a light on some of the amazing new pieces of technology that are making their way into the ABA market over the last few years. We wanted this to be a long form way of discussing and communicating their contributions to ABA with their software, allowing them to kind of dive deep into their background and their story, as well as their value and their mission, and all while explaining how they're going to shape the new technology ABA market. So without further ado, Erica, nice to have you here. Thanks for coming. Tell me about ABA Engine.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And Christy popped off, but thanks to her for that wonderful intro. So ABA Engine was really born out of a need that I experienced when I was building the software or the ABA companies. I wanted a way to better manage our pipeline of clients and also employees serving those clients. Better management than just in spreadsheets. And our team in our Turning Point company in Maryland built workflows with our team members. And then I took what we built and I put it into a software to allow other companies to be able to streamline and speed up, basically speed to services for families looking.
Got it. So is this mostly, was the idea mostly around intake?
The idea started it was intake and scheduling. They're both so intertwined that it's hard to separate them. So yes, it was getting families into services, and a big part of that is intake, but then the scheduling puzzle also has to be attacked correctly.
Sure. Yeah. I've always kind of seen different kind of like haphazardly put together workflows for intake that never really ticked all the boxes, right? Because there's a lot of like really important business use cases for, length of time from an approved authorization to whether actually scheduled.
Right.
And like all these different like little milestones and things to track in order to make sure that you're being able to utilize authorizations as quickly as possible.
Sure.
So tell me about some of like the intricacies of this technology. Like what sets ABA Engine apart from everybody else?
I would say the details. So there's lots of details that set it apart. And I think you hit the nail on the head with the workflows matter. So we're not just providing features, we're providing an integrated process. Our features are within an integrated process with the goal of getting families into services faster and understanding the nuances of what is it actually to run an ABA company. I'm a BCBA and I've run companies. I've done intake, I've done billing, I've done all of these roles in companies. So I understand the interconnectedness across platforms. So timeliness of communication, being presented with the right information at the right time so that you can make choices quickly. Just as one example, knowing how long are my families in each stage in intake. And then
Sure.
that's really important, because how do I know how many employees to bring in, or at what cadence I need to bring employees in, if I don't even understand the timelines of my own intake pipeline?
Sure.
And downstream further than that is scheduling. How is the end result of scheduling even going to come together if I don't understand the timelines and the process of my two pipelines that result in scheduling?
Yeah, yeah, and there's so many different intricacies and things there. Just at a high level, before we kind of dive into some slides that you brought, like what were some of the high level scheduling hurdles that you were able to overcome?
So I think we were in center, and we, just like most all ABA companies, even when you have a practice management platform, you're still doing scheduling on spreadsheets. It's just the reality of our field. And we were in center when COVID hit, and we pushed back into home. And so there was an additional immediate need for me to say, oh my gosh, we've got all these processes, but now I'm adding this massive third variable of location. So
Mhm.
that's a huge
You all of a
piece of—
sudden become a like logistics company.
Correct. That's
Yeah,
exactly right. Yep. And so that's a
yeah,
huge piece of the scheduling. So ABA Engine is map based at its core. Not to say that it won't work for clinics, it absolutely will, but the core is map based.
got it,
And
got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and the mixture of both of those, yeah, you need to have a pretty intelligent system to kind of see from just a location and, like I said, like a logistics standpoint. Now you might as well be, routing delivery trucks or something at this, right? I mean, it's kind of like the same technical hurdles, to overcome.
right.
Um, cool. Okay. Well, now I think we got an idea at a high level. Do you want to start sharing your screen and take a look at some slides?
Yeah, let's do it. So the tagline for us is meet your newest admin assistant, because we're really looking at within these specific workflows that we're building into the intake and onboarding process and the scheduling process, we're really looking at replacing admin time. So
Hmm.
for this is just an example. I actually have a calculator that we're going to be launching on our website, so businesses can go in there and say, I'm spending this much time on this, I'm spending this much time on this, and see like what it translates specifically for them. So for a
Hmm.
clinic, ABA company who's clinician run and owned, and maybe is just starting out or still fairly small, that clinician is probably wearing a lot of these hats. And that means that anytime that clinician spends doing intake tasks or scheduling tasks or onboarding tasks, they're not billing, they're not providing clinical services, but more importantly, to get their company launched and up and running so they can hire more team members in, they're not producing revenue.
Right.
And their time is worth significantly more than an admin time. So just rough estimate here, just to kind of give you an idea, if we can take 50% of those intake and onboarding tasks, low estimate, right? Just 50% of 2 of these 3 tasks, I'm saying that's about 28.5 hours a week. And that translates on average, if you're billing 100 an hour, to $28.50 per week of additional revenue that you as a clinician can produce. Now, if an
Hmm.
admin is doing this time and we remove the need for that, and you can allocate their time to something else that's pushing your business forward, at $25 an hour, we're saving you about $712
Sure.
a week. So that's this chart. Oh, my pictures are gone. Let's go to a different screen. I have this problem in one of my other, that is so weird because I see them on my screen. Let me share again.
Huh.
I'm going to share the entire screen and let's see what happens. So give me a second. I'll flip over to it. Okay. Can you see them now?
Yes.
Okay. So this is kind of what we talked about, right? That intake pipeline for clients and the employee pipeline. And so what kicks them off is simple. It's a form that you put on your website. We have a full form builder, language translation, logic. It's very robust. So you can say, hey, if they answer this question this way, show these questions instead. So you can collect whatever client intake information, whatever employee, it could be application or on hire. And that's what creates their file in our system and kicks the process off. The cool thing is you can attach automations to these forms as well. So you could have an email automatically trigger to the family that says, hey, received your form. Someone will be back in contact in 24 hours or whatever your process would be there. When they complete that form, so we have two pipelines. Here's our clients and here's our providers or employees. When they complete that, they're going to be here. My kids helped me name these names. Skibbity Sigma was not my choice. That's what happens when you allow middle schoolers to help you create your demo environment.
Yeah, it's another language.
So that family that just requested services with your company now comes in here, it kicks off this process. And you're going to drag and drop that family through this process. And as you're doing that, the system will automatically do things for you. It can send tasks. It can send emails. It can send forms to the parent portal. So all these things are happening automatically. In addition, you can layer a task analysis on top of each stage. So if we were in a live environment, I could click on Skibbity Sigma's picture and I would see what things do I have to complete at this stage. And then I would move it over. And you see the timelines here. So Emma has been...
And when you say you're talking about an admin.
I'm talking, right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So the admin's still in charge of the overall process, but now all these detailed things, sending the emails, sending the forms, all of that, sending tasks to whoever, maybe someone throughout this process is going to verify benefits. If you've got multiple team members with hands in this process, maybe someone's going to verify benefits, maybe someone's going to request the initial auth. That all could be set. So as one person is pulling the child through the stages, those tasks are triggering to the correct people.
Got it. So, so from a technical side, like each one of these little columns, I'm struggling to see pending client paperwork, benefit checking.
It's cut off.
So
it scrolls more.
yeah,
process.
no, it's okay. I was just trying to see what they were. So are you doing anything aside from like automations, or do you have plans to do things like verification checks automatically, or what's happening in the background when someone gets moved along, and how much customization do you have? Is this like a template out of the box? Like how does it work?
So the intake is customizable from what automations do you want to layer on top? What tasks do you want to layer on top? And then you could create any additional process. You could track your authorizations when they're up for renewal. You could track when your employees' certifications are up for renewal. You could track PTO, any process that you want to track or any process that you want to keep up with, you could build out. As far as specifically triggering the ability to check benefits, that is something we don't have right now, but it will be something we'll do in the future.
Are there any other things like that? Like any other processes? Because I don't know all the intricate steps for an intake, but are there other things like that you have plans to kind of build out?
Yeah, I think the biggest are the creation of tasks, the sending of emails, the sending of forms, and the moving of the card automatically. So, for example, one of the biggest time sucks in an intake process specifically would be sending and collecting the parent paperwork. So you've got to track that you sent it, and then you've got to follow up with the family to make sure they get it back. And we want to kind of remove barriers so it's easy for them to complete the paperwork. You know, having the scenario where you're sending them PDFs in an email and they have to download it and fill it out and then upload it and send it back to you. That's just not, it's too many hurdles for families there. So our system will automatically send the forms to the parent portal and an email to them with a direct link. So all they would have to do is click the link. And then this is an example of what the portal looks like. So they know exactly where they are in the process. And then they would just click and fill the form out right online. It's mobile optimized and very easy. So low hurdles. Now, if the family wasn't completing the forms in a specified time period, you could have automation set up where maybe you 2 days after you send the form or 4 days after you send the form, you have kind of the sequence of increasingly strongly worded emails that say, hey, we're still waiting on your forms. So just the removal of the weight of tracking all of that is taken off the plate of an admin.
Yeah. So, so from scratch, do you kind of set up these columns for people, or is this something that each company is maybe a little bit different, and there's like a lot of customization there?
So we set up the intake and the onboarding, and then the additional boards would be any additional customization or process that the business that's specific to the business. Each of these can be turned on or off. So maybe you don't want to show one of these steps to the family, you could turn it off. But the intake process and the onboarding process are fairly straightforward. We will move to a place where that even is customizable, but currently it's a pretty straightforward path. So those two pipelines are set up when you.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay, so then they get to the end, right? And they're ready to be scheduled.
Yep, scheduling is part of that process. And I think I have some scheduling here. So we have two different ways to schedule, really 3 use cases, but we kind of think about it in 2 ways. So one is our sandbox, which I'm showing you here. And it's just filters. You can segment your company by business units. The auth code allows you to look at, it changes the numbers here so you understand utilization based on a specific auth code. Schedule status, if there's a schedule, partial schedule, full schedule, you can filter what you're looking at based on that. And then there's a myriad of additional filters here. So you could look at where they are in the intake process or the onboarding process. You could look at type of provider, and these are all catalogs that the business can customize as well. You can even filter by like specialty. You know, if you need someone with eating and feeding expertise or someone who's good with middle school kids, and the business sets that up. So however we have businesses that use male and female as a specialty because they have families that request a gender for scheduling. So this is kind of everything's at your fingertips. What do you want to look at? Then we show it to you, you select, and then it's in your sandbox. And you can flip, you know, it's account, you can zoom in and out, you can flip between days here, you can turn your weekends off. This is a timeline day. If you go to the day view, it just flips. The list of people here is at the top and it just flips its different view. Week view, month view, year view. Obviously, the more data you're trying to look at once, the less we can show you. So like on a year view, if there's a schedule, it's a dot, you would have to click on it, then you would see what the schedule is. And here you flip between the calendar, the map, and the data is just an Excel view of your schedule. So this is an example of the map view. So I'm looking at my Atlanta business unit and my employees and clients, and I can see them here on the map view. I could click back to the calendar view. I could click to my data view. So it's just trying to say, how can we present this to you? And you have the ability to these 3 dots on clients and employees. This is a quick pop-up. You can edit their authorization or their availability right here. So if I'm looking at this, Emma and Amanda are scheduled, and I'm like, oh, I just talked to Amanda and she's going to do another half hour, but you see this green is her availability. It ends. I could just quickly go to her. I wouldn't have to go back to her file and click out of this. I could quickly change her availability and quickly change the schedule.
I see. I see. So you're able to add availability for both client and provider?
Yep. And we have portals. So the client has a portal and the employee has a portal. And the business has the ability to allow the employee to control their own availability if they
Okay.
choose. So it could be something for a business who maybe is more not as centralized, and the employees have more autonomy. They
Sure.
could allow them to control their availability. So then the business, when they're scheduling, is always looking at the most up-to-date truth. And then we have settings that allow the business chooses what the parent can see. So we even allow the parent to rebook sessions, cancel and rebook sessions in their portal, which further cuts down on admin time. And of course, based on what do you want us to present to the parent is the business's decision. So it may be only show availability with their same therapist, or only on the therapy team, or only in the business
Right.
unit. There's settings that the business controls for that
That's
rebook.
really nice. Do you do anything around the authorization utilization with this?
Yes, I don't have a picture of it, but we do have dashboards, and we do show utilization for employees and clients. And it's this right here under the tasks. So we have client hours, provider hours. It's like a Power BI dashboard where you've got multiple graphs and they're each filterable. They're pretty powerful. And you can understand your intake timeline and your onboarding timeline.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the harder things to tackle around authorization utilization is like the combination of, you get an authorization from a funding source that says we're willing to pay you X for this amount of units or visits or days or whatever hours,
Right.
and then you have this kind of gray area that maybe they say we'll pay up to 40 hours per week, and the family goes, we can only do 35. We just really can't do that. So then you have this like never going to make it to 100%
Right.
utilization issue, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the whole, cancellations that come in, that you have to monitor those, and the reasons behind them and who canceled and why. And is this a poor client to keep on board, or is this like maybe something's wrong with the employee? Maybe, so like all of that stuff really plays a big part into optimizing that authorization. So it seems like you have quite a bit of it. I really like the fact that the family can cancel and reschedule. That's really nice.
Yeah.
Do you see that being utilized a lot?
We do have some, I think the key is that policies are clear. So smaller companies aren't utilizing it as much because the clinician founder is still kind of wearing all of the hats and juggling all of the things, right? And treading water and trying not to drown. And so to allow that control to a family, they're just not at the point where they can do that yet. But so I would say it depends on how strong and stable the policies are.
Sure. Yeah. Um, and then do you have a way to view like cancellations and things like that?
We actually have I think that's the next slide. Yep. So in each file, you can go if you look at the main tab up here, you've got your clients and your employees. So for the use case of, let's say, last minute call out in the morning or something like that, if you're going to have to move things around, then you could go to that planning board I just showed you, right? It's a Jenga puzzle. You can move things around and you have all that data there at your fingertips. But if you're just looking at, hey, I just want the system to show me what's available, like where can I rebook this or reschedule this? Like, what do I even have open? This is more helpful if you're dealing with like just massive amounts of data and employees and whatever, and it's not necessarily going to fit like in one little screen. Then you can either from the client side or the employee side, you can come to the session and you can click reschedule, and then the system will give you a list of options to reschedule. Now, it may be same day with another clinician. It may be a day in the future with the same clinician, but you'll have that list of options, and then you can kind of see this drop down of if there's multiple times available in a day,
Sure.
we would see multiple times to rebook. And we will be tracking cancellations. Our structure is set up so that we can track them. You can see here who canceled and what's the reason.
Mhm.
And this reasoning is a catalog that the business customizes.
That's good.
And probably it will be presented in a visually like in a dashboard, but we don't have that built just yet.
Cool. Yeah. All that's really, really good data to start storing, especially when you want to start looking at things like, employee performance, even,
Yep.
having employee issued cancellations is a good number to have,
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, cool.
One thing
So,
that would be really cool as I'm talking to you, I just thought of this. If you can kind of see here in the background, this is what I call my airplane seating chart. This is a this is a 6-month out view, so you can kind of see the months here at the top, and the
uh-huh.
days are here. So each vertical column is a week, Monday through Friday, and then
Okay.
you're going through the year 6 months out, and you can see the legend over here. So I think that I just thought of this just now talking to you. It would be really cool to have an additional color here that
Mhm.
shows partial or full cancellation. So you
Mm.
could just at a glance see that. Right now we have
So
it's
that
all
would
based
mean there
on
was
schedule.
one in that week.
Right. So right now
Okay.
it's just based on scheduling, right? So all of this is black. That means that this client, Beastie Boys, my kids strike again, they're too young to know the Beastie Boys.
Yeah,
I think my
that's a
husband
little
has
bit
something
different
to do
than
with that.
skibbities.
I know, Skibbity Beastie Boys.
Yeah.
Sigma Riz right there. Man, I need to go back to middle school. Okay. This client has a fully booked schedule. That's the black. And then the green is where that booking stops. That's available.
I see. Okay. Yeah, having cancellations and there would be a big red
Right.
little dot right there in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see at a glance. And you're looking at, is this a provider or is this a client?
So this is a client. The providers look the same though.
Okay. Yeah, so you could see it on both sides. That would be cool.
Mhm. Yep. That's
So
my last
so
slide.
what's kind of on your, not necessarily roadmap, but
Mhm.
let's call it, if you had a magic wand,
Sure.
what would you like, what's like pie in the sky type of ideal for you in terms of, providing not necessarily a good piece of software, but what's it going to do, and how is it really going to help?
Yeah. Um, my goal is speed to services for families. That's the mission. So everything runs through that goal. Is this going to help business owners get families into services faster? Yes or no? And that's how I decide whether or not I'm going to build or use a feature.
Okay.
Very, very close secondary to that is, or almost even incorporated in that is, does it allow the ABA business owner to run their company more efficiently? And I think that I think with the Motivity as a very deep dive into just focusing on data collection, and that's what you guys do. I think that has really kind of kicked off what multiple other
Hmm.
industries in our world already do, which is allow businesses to create their own tech stack.
Right.
So I do like the idea of we're just going to do this client management piece better than any other practice management platform. And that's always going to be my main focus.
Mm-hmm.
However, I do also understand that it's easier for companies if everything's all in one. So I think that what our next step will be is we'll allow like billing exports and things like that, but we're still looking at connections into practice management platforms. I will answer your question sort of from like my original pie in the sky was I'm going to build a scheduling algorithm where you hit a button and it goes beep, 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 and then everything's pushed together.
Yeah.
I keep de-scoping that. I keep putting it off and I'll tell you why. Because as beautiful and wonderful as that sounds, I don't think that actually is the solve to the problem. And for anyone who's here, I'd really love thoughts on that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's too many variables that businesses want at their control, at their fingertips, that the better focus is presenting the right data at the right time in the right way so things can happen quickly. When you just in the background do all of the things and then you present a result, I think it automatically, you're reducing visibility, which is what I don't want to do. I want to increase visibility.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean,
yeah, that's interesting. And there's so many variables too, in terms of how, just like from a business standpoint, how you want to schedule people. Like we were talking to a group the other day that they only accept clients that are full-time, 40 hours a week.
mhm.
And that's how they keep their schedule streamlined. That was their business rule. If you're not authorized at 40 hours a week, we can't take you as a client.
Yeah,
That's not ideal, but that's
yeah,
what they do. And it you'll run into, all the time. And yeah, I think people want that easy button, but at the same time, um, what value are you leaving on the table by not sitting down with the family and saying, "Hey, here are our options. This is what I've come up for you based off of what we talked about," and having a more formal conversation about it. Um, is that what you think is missing? Is that why you keep descaling it, or like what are those touch points that you think provide value without having that easy button?
well, the easy button doesn't weight based on multiple variables very easily. And if it does, it gets incredibly complex and almost reduces the goal of making things easier, because now in the background, we're having to make sure that we're super clear on what employees and what providers can work together,
Hmm.
what like all the information that a clinician would hold in their head, all of the variables, like there's so many things.
Hmm.
And how do you create that?
Right. You
But
need to
even
seed
worse
all
than
that
that,
data first so that it
it,
works.
yeah, but even if
Yeah.
you do create it, now you've got to build it out in the background and keep it updated. So is that easy button? It just doesn't feel as
Yeah.
easy
I mean,
anymore.
right. Right. Yeah. You need to make sure that your 30, employees have all the languages they speak are accurate. Make sure that their clinical expertise is marked in the right way in some structured format that you can filter on and provide weight in certain areas. And can you override some things but not other things? I mean, yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. Yeah, I can see where that from a product standpoint could teeter totter back and forth pretty easily.
Yeah, I
Um,
think we'll probably eventually build something similar, but I don't really think that it's what owners want. I think they want the right information at their fingertips at the right time.
mhm,
Yeah, and
yeah,
Kelly just nailed it in the chat. It's the conflict between individualizing for efficiency and standardizing for efficiency.
yeah,
Yeah.
Do you have, stepping away from scheduling a little bit, I know there's been a lot of talk, and I see a lot of new companies popping up regarding like remote diagnosis tools, pre-authorization tools, things like that. Do you have any plans, or have you do you think there's any value to be had in those types of systems with ABA Engine?
So it's funny that you bring that up, because this is not something that's advertised at all on my site. So I don't even know if you know this, Brian, if that was a lead-in or if that was an accident. So
no,
we
it's a
have,
good segue.
this is a good segue. There you go. We are beta testing this with a hospital in Mississippi. We've licensed a electronic diagnosing tool that is billable to insurance, ends in 16 different diagnoses. It's for mental health. Autism is not currently one of them, but it is potential on the roadmap. And the goal there is broad sweeping checks to catch people early, before it's a problem.
Okay.
For the hospital, it's to triage. So it's like, we are inundated with hundreds of referrals from the community. A human cannot touch those.
Right.
We need an automated way to triage, like who to prioritize and or where to send them. And so ABA Engine does that as well. And my hope, I guess this could kind of answer your question. My hope in the future is that that is made available, and we can, like, parents of children with autism can get screened and then be referred for the correct help.
Yeah. I mean, that would be my first thought, is like, how many parents do you have filling out that client intake form that maybe don't even have a diagnosis yet? They're just looking for information. Like, they don't know where to go.
Yeah. And to be able to screen their child and to screen them from the mental health side of things. When I worked with families directly, and it was just TRICARE before all the mandates across the US, you know, it was 20, 21, 22, 23-year-old moms whose husbands were across the ocean, and they just had their first child and then got told they had autism, and all of this vision of what their life was going to be like just came crashing down in on them. And I think we forget that, like, you think moms are so strong because they have to be, but I don't think you realize, not you, but, you know, we as ABA company owners and providers and clinicians don't realize the impact of what that is on a family, and especially a mother. And then just to be able to screen for that. And we have a great place as ABA businesses to be able to say, hey, you're coming here for support for your child. Like, how are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, do we need to refer? Do you need support? Can we refer you somewhere?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's such a big value add, both to ABA Engine, but also to your clients who use ABA Engine, right? Because now, let's just say that one of your value propositions was, we'll take your intake that maybe don't have a diagnosis yet, and now now it's more about education on where to go, about what are the steps, what is your roadmap towards getting services, right? And you can kind of guide them along that way, when before there's just so many piecemeal types of offerings now, and a lot of them are state by state, right? Because they kind of have to be. So I think it's a great step in the right direction, and something that's definitely needed.
And behavior analysts kind of see diagnoses as a construct. Like, we don't care. We generally come about the product of, like, I see something going on, and I kind of have an idea of how I can make your life better. That's how we approach things. And then a funder comes along and goes, well, I need a label. And so you need that. And as a PCP, I'm like, I don't care. I can fix that and make life better for them. Don't you want me to do that? Nope. Need a label. And so it's like bringing that together. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is great. Do we have any questions, Christy, or anything that we didn't touch on?
No, I think you guys were pretty thorough. Thank you. Really, thank you, Erica and Brian. It's amazing. I mean, so like I have an MBA, but most clinicians do not. Most clinicians are not business people, and they just want to do what's best for their clients. And so the fact that you have something that you can just take this off of their plate, that's wonderful. And I know it comes from a place of Erica, just because I know how Erica is committed to her businesses and how she's just like, I just need to make this better for everybody. And I think you've really done such a wonderful job doing that. And really, so not just you focus on the clinicians, but I loved when you said, you're like, all right, is this going to get services to the people who need them faster? Which is a huge thing, because, you know, we all know that earlier is crucial for some people and the triage.
Yeah, absolutely.
So kudos to you for like just making the world better. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
I hope it, and I hope everyone enjoyed this presentation. I think it was great. Don't forget to mark your calendars for September 19th. That's next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, when we're going to host a CEU webinar with Anita Lee called The Role of Culturally Responsive Supervision on Staff Retention and Promotion. I knew I was going to slip up a word there. That's all. I know, but it'll be good because it sounds like it's going to be a supervision CEU, and we all know how we need those. You can register right now through Behavior Live. But thank you, everyone, for spending some extra time with us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks, Erica.
Thank you.